Chosen one, listen carefully. This message is not for everyone. If you are not walking the divine path of God, if you mock spiritual truth, or if you live only for ego and distraction, this video is not for you. Scroll away. But if you are truly chosen, if your spirit has been marked by God, you will feel the weight of these words before you even understand them. This message has reached you at the exact moment it was meant to. Not early, not late, perfectly timed. I am speaking directly to you, chosen one. You didn't find this message by accident. Heaven aligned this moment because your life is about to make sense in a way it never has before. The betrayal you endured, the silent attacks, the sudden backstabbing from people you trusted, it was not random. What I'm about to reveal will shift how you see your past, your pain, and your purpose. Stay with me till the end, because the final truth will unlock clarity you've been praying for. Before we go deeper, pause and acknowledge this calling. Like this video, subscribe to Rise of the Chosen, tap the bell icon, and share this message with another chosen one who needs confirmation. And in the comments, write only one number, either 777 or 333, as a sign that your spirit recognizes this divine message. Now listen closely. What they did to you was not betrayal alone. It was the beginning of your Joseph arc now.
Who you really are and why you were targeted. Chosen one, you must understand this clearly, because if you miss this truth, you will continue questioning yourself when you were never the problem. You were targeted because of who you are, not because of what you did. Long before you realized your calling, people around you sensed something different about you. You carried a presence that could not be explained. You didn't need to announce it. You didn't need to prove it. Your spirit spoke before your mouth ever did. You were marked. And when someone is marked by God, they naturally disrupt environments that thrive on comfort, deception, and stagnation. Your light exposed what others were trying to hide, even when you said nothing at all. That is why some people felt uneasy around you. That is why conversations changed when you entered the room. That is why support slowly turned into silence. You are not imagining it. Chosen ones are not designed to blend in. You are designed to activate, awaken, and reveal. And that alone makes you a target. People who are not ready to face themselves feel threatened by your growth. Not because you harmed them, but because your existence reminded them of everything they refused to become. You represented discipline where they chose excuses. You carried depth where they lived on the surface. You moved with integrity where they survived through masks. Understand this deeply. The backstabbing did not begin when you failed. It began when you started rising internally. The moment your confidence became quiet, the moment your boundaries became firm, the moment your spirit stopped begging for validation, that is when the shift happened. Some people could no longer control you, influence you, or benefit from you. And when control is lost, betrayal is often the next move. You must also understand that chosen ones attract spiritual jealousy before they attract admiration. People saw your future before you did. They sensed your elevation even while you were still doubting yourself. That is why some smiled in your face but spoke against you behind closed doors. That is why some pretended to support you but secretly competed with you. They were not reacting to your present. They were reacting to your potential. This is where many chosen ones get confused. You tried to love harder. You tried to explain yourself. You tried to stay loyal. But loyalty does not cancel destiny, and love does not blind insecurity. The more you tried to keep the peace, the more restless they became, because peace with you meant facing their own lack of growth, and most people would rather destroy a connection than confront themselves. You were also targeted because of your heart. Chosen ones carry empathy, patience, and forgiveness naturally, and manipulators recognize that immediately. Some people did not connect with you because they valued you. They connected because they could feed off your energy, your wisdom, your support. But the moment you started withdrawing, the moment you stopped overgiving, the mask slipped. What you saw was not sudden, it was revealed. Let me speak clearly here. The betrayal was never personal, it was spiritual. You were dealing with people who could not go where God was taking you, and instead of accepting that truth, they attempted to delay you, distract you, or damage you emotionally. But here is the divine irony. Every attempt to break you only activated you further. Every lie spoken against you sharpened your discernment. Every loss refined your spirit. Chosen one, you must release the idea that being good guarantees protection. It does not. Being chosen guarantees opposition. The higher the calling, the stronger the resistance. You are not meant to be preserved in comfort. You are meant to be forged in pressure. That is why the attacks came from familiar faces. Strangers cannot wound you the way trusted people can. And God knew that only deep wounds could produce deep authority. Some of you were betrayed by family, some by friends, some by partners, some by people you poured into when no one else did. And you questioned God in silence, asking why He allowed it. But what you did not see then, you are beginning to see now. Those connections had expiration dates. If they stayed, they would have limited you. If they stayed, you would have compromised yourself to keep them comfortable. You were targeted because you are a cycle breaker. You are not here to repeat patterns, you are here to end them. And systems built on dysfunction do not release cycle breakers peacefully. They resist, they retaliate, they attempt to shame, isolate, and confuse. That is exactly what you experienced. The confusion was intentional. The silence was strategic. The rejection was engineered to test whether you would shrink or rise. And look at you now. You are still standing, more aware, more discerning, less attached, stronger in ways you cannot yet fully articulate. The betrayal stripped away illusions. It exposed false alignment. It forced you inward where God could finally speak to you without interference. What felt like abandonment was actually redirection. Hear this truth and let it settle in your spirit. You were targeted because heaven announced your name before earth ever understood it. The betrayal was not a detour. It was confirmation. And this was only the beginning of your transformation. The Joseph arc begins, the pattern God always uses. Chosen one, now that you understand why you were targeted, it is time to understand the pattern behind it. God does not move randomly. Heaven operates through order, cycles, and tested designs. What you walked through follows a spiritual pattern that has repeated throughout history, and it is known among the chosen as the Joseph arc. Once you recognize it, your confusion will turn into clarity, and your pain will finally have meaning. The Joseph arc always begins with favor, not loud favor, not public favor, but quiet, divine marking. Before Joseph was ever betrayed, before the pit, before the prison, he was already favored by God. And that same favor rested on you long before everything fell apart. You were different early in life. You saw deeper. You felt more. You questioned things others accepted. That was not rebellion. That was discernment forming. Favor attracts attention, and attention invites opposition. After favor comes misunderstanding. People close to you misread your intentions. They projected motives onto you that were never there. They accused you of arrogance when you were simply confident. They labeled you distant when you were actually evolving. This stage is painful because you are still trying to belong while God is quietly preparing you to stand alone. The Joseph arc demands that misunderstanding happens early because clarity comes later. Then comes betrayal, not from enemies, but from those within your circle. This is intentional. God allows betrayal from familiar hands because it severs emotional dependence. If strangers had hurt you, you would have recovered easily. But betrayal from trusted people leaves a deeper wound, one that forces you to detach, mature, and stop seeking approval. In the Joseph arc, betrayal is the doorway into separation. The pit is next. This is where many chosen ones panic. The pit is not always visible. It can look like stagnation, loss, isolation, or sudden silence. Opportunities disappear, support vanishes, people stop calling, and you are left alone with your thoughts, questioning everything you believed about yourself. But hear this clearly. The pit is not punishment. It is positioning. God removes noise so he can reprogram your identity. In the pit, ego dies, pride dissolves, dependency breaks. This is where you stop relying on people and start relying on divine instruction. The pit humbles you, not to diminish you, but to refine your authority. God cannot elevate a chosen one who still needs applause. He cannot place you in leadership if you still fear rejection. The pit strips you of emotional attachments that would later become weaknesses. Many chosen ones try to escape the pit too early. They chase distractions, they numb the silence, they lower their standards just to feel connected again. But the Joseph arc cannot be rushed. If you climb out prematurely, you will repeat the cycle. That is why God allowed you to feel stuck. That is why answers were delayed. That is why prayers felt unheard. He was building your inner foundation. After the pit comes the season of hidden preparation. Joseph served in obscurity before he ruled in authority, and you too were trained while unseen. God sharpened your discernment. He taught you restraint. He showed you who to trust and who to release. You learned to read energy instead of words. You learned when to speak and when to stay silent. These lessons could only be learned in isolation. Then comes testing. Even after growth, even after healing, temptation appears. Old connections resurface. Familiar patterns knock again. This is where many fail. The test is simple. Will you return to what broke you, or will you honor what you have become? In the Joseph arc, the test is never about people. It is about loyalty to your evolution. Only after testing does elevation arrive. And elevation is often sudden. One moment you are overlooked, the next you are needed. One moment you are underestimated, the next your wisdom is sought. This is how God moves. He does not gradually convince people of your value. He reveals it in undeniable ways. When your time comes, no explanation is required. Understand this, chosen one. God always removes you before he raises you. If he elevated you while you were still surrounded by those who doubted you, they would have claimed credit for your success. They would have accessed you without respect. Separation protects the anointing. That is why the Joseph arc requires loneliness before leadership. Your heart had to be broken before authority could be entrusted to you. Not because God enjoys your pain, but because authority without compassion becomes tyranny, and compassion without boundaries becomes self-destruction. God balanced both within you through experience. You now understand pain without being controlled by it. You now lead with wisdom, not ego. This is also why God did not explain the plan earlier. If he showed you the throne while you were in the pit, you would have resisted the process. You would have negotiated with destiny. Instead, he walked you through darkness so your faith could mature beyond circumstance. Faith built on evidence collapses. Faith built in silence endures. Chosen one, the betrayal did not delay your destiny. It accelerated it. What was meant to shame you actually positioned you. What was meant to isolate you refined you. The Joseph arc is not about suffering, it is about transformation, and the moment you recognize where you are in the pattern, fear loses its grip. You are no longer in the pit, you are in preparation, and preparation always precedes elevation. Stay grounded, stay discerning, stay obedient to what your spirit now knows. Because once the Joseph arc begins, it cannot be reversed, only completed. Why they had to turn against you. The deeper spiritual truth. Chosen one, this is the moment where understanding must replace resentment. As long as anger still lives in your heart toward those who betrayed you, it means part of the lesson is still unfolding. Anger does not mean you are weak. It means you are still interpreting the experience emotionally rather than spiritually. Once you see the full picture, revenge will lose its appeal and clarity will take its place. They did not turn against you because you were lacking. They turned against you because you were becoming powerful in ways they could not access, predict, or control. People do not betray what they believe they can dominate. They betray what they sense they are about to lose. The moment your growth became undeniable, pressure began forming beneath the surface. Your evolution disrupted familiar dynamics. You stopped playing the role they assigned to you unconsciously. You stopped shrinking to keep others comfortable. You stopped adjusting yourself to preserve fragile egos. And the moment you no longer fit the version of you they had power over, resistance emerged. Here is the truth many chosen ones struggle to accept without guilt. Some people were connected to you only because your old version served their needs. You were the listener when they needed comfort. You were the supporter when they lacked direction. You were the fixer when they avoided responsibility. You were the emotional anchor while they drifted. But as you matured, your energy shifted. You no longer gave without receiving. You no longer tolerated imbalance disguised as loyalty. You required reciprocity. You required respect. And that requirement exposed everything that was previously hidden. Those who benefited from imbalance rarely surrender it peacefully. They did not consciously plan betrayal at first. It did not begin as a deliberate act. It began internally, quietly, subtly. Comparison crept in. Insecurity took root. Silent competition formed where connection once existed. They watched your discipline while they delayed their calling. They observed your consistency while they entertained excuses. They saw your restraint while they chose comfort. Over time, admiration curdled into resentment. This is why betrayal often comes from those who once praised you the loudest. Praise without self-work eventually turns into hostility. Chosen one, you must understand spiritual projection to free yourself completely. People often accuse you of what they themselves are guilty of. When you stopped overgiving, they called you selfish. When you stopped explaining yourself, they labeled you arrogant. When you began protecting your peace, they said you became distant. These labels were never accurate descriptions of you. They were defensive mechanisms. Projection is how insecure people avoid accountability. By assigning blame outward, they protect their self-image inward. You also triggered something far deeper than surface-level jealousy. Your presence confronted their unhealed wounds. Without intending to, you reflected back what they refused to acknowledge within themselves. Your growth highlighted their stagnation. Your healing exposed their avoidance. And when reflection becomes uncomfortable, destruction feels easier than healing. So instead of evolving alongside you, they attempted to sabotage you. Not always openly, not always aggressively, sometimes through silence, sometimes through gossip, sometimes through subtle discrediting, sometimes through withdrawal disguised as indifference. Understand this carefully and without emotional distortion. They smiled while betraying you because guilt often hides behind familiarity. It is easier to betray someone you know than to face the truth of your own stagnation. That smile was not confidence. It was fear disguised as normalcy. Deep down, they knew what they were doing was wrong. But fear of losing relevance, control, or comfort outweighed integrity. And when fear leads, betrayal follows. This is also why betrayal often feels sudden. One day, everything appears normal. Conversations flow. Energy feels stable. Then, without warning, something shifts. Communication becomes inconsistent. Support disappears. Coldness replaces warmth. This suddenness is not impulsive. It is the final stage of internal conflict. Once their discomfort reached a breaking point, action followed. The rupture you experienced was not spontaneous. It was the release of months or even years of suppressed insecurity, comparison, and fear. Chosen one, hear this truth without emotion, without justification, without attachment. Not everyone is meant to ascend with you. Some people are assigned only to your early chapters. Their role is not lifelong companionship. Their role is contrast. They reveal what alignment is not so you can recognize what alignment is. And when you refuse to accept this, you suffer unnecessarily. The betrayal was not random. It was alignment enforcing itself when you hesitated to let go. God allows people to turn against you when their presence would delay your obedience. Had they stayed supportive, you might have compromised yourself to keep the peace. You might have remained emotionally tied to dynamics that limited your growth. You might have postponed necessary transformation to preserve connection. So God removed them in the only way you would not ignore, through pain, through shock, through undeniable separation. Sometimes God whispers, sometimes He closes doors, and sometimes He allows rupture when nothing else will move you forward. This is where many chosen ones misunderstand divine protection. Protection is not always gentle. It does not always feel comforting. Sometimes protection feels like loss. Sometimes it feels like humiliation. Sometimes it feels like abandonment. But God sees what you cannot yet perceive. He sees future doors that would have remained closed if those people still had access to you. He sees assignments that require solitude before collaboration. He sees callings that demand clarity before connection. Let us speak about the emotional aftermath honestly. After betrayal, you questioned your discernment. You replayed conversations in your mind. You wondered how you missed the signs. You blamed yourself for trusting too deeply. But understand this truth without self-condemnation. Discernment does not always reveal betrayal early because love can cloud timing. God allows you to see truth when your spirit is strong enough to carry it. If you had seen everything earlier, it might have shattered you. You were protected by not knowing until you were ready. You were also betrayed because you outgrew shared trauma. Some bonds are not built on purpose or vision. They are built on mutual pain, mutual struggle, mutual survival. When one person begins to heal, the bond destabilizes. Healing changes the dynamic, and instead of healing with you, some chose resentment. Your healing threatened their identity. Your growth disrupted the agreement they never consciously acknowledged. So they attacked the source of discomfort rather than addressing the discomfort itself. Chosen one, release the need to be understood by those who harmed you. Understanding requires self-awareness. It requires humility. It requires reflection. And not everyone is willing to develop those qualities. Closure does not come from conversations with people who refuse accountability. Closure comes from comprehension. And now you are comprehending. You are seeing clearly. The betrayal was not a reflection of your worth. It was evidence of your transition. God did not allow this to happen to break your heart. He allowed it to break your attachments. You were holding on to connections that could not survive your next level. Connections that would have drained you, distracted you, delayed you. And instead of allowing slow erosion, God cut the cord. Cleanly, suddenly, painful, yes. Necessary, absolutely. This is the final truth of this section, and it must be accepted fully. They had to turn against you so you could finally stand with yourself. As long as they remained present, your loyalty was divided. Part of you was committed to your calling. Part of you was committed to preserving connection. Betrayal forced clarity, and clarity is the foundation of authority. You were not rejected. You were redirected. You were not abandoned. You were reassigned. And what comes next requires the version of you that betrayal created. The isolation phase, God working in silence. Chosen one, this is the phase that confused you the most. After the betrayal, after the separation, after the sudden collapse of familiar connections, silence entered your life. Not just external silence, but internal quiet. The kind of quiet that feels unfamiliar and unsettling at first. Fewer messages began to arrive. Invitations stopped coming. Conversations faded without explanation. The people who once knew your routines, your struggles, your laughter slowly disappeared from your daily life. And in that stillness, you questioned yourself. You wondered if you had done something wrong, if you were too much, if you had missed a sign. But hear this clearly and let it settle deep within you. Isolation is not abandonment, it is alignment. God works in silence because silence removes interference. When too many voices surround you, discernment weakens. When too many opinions influence your decisions, obedience becomes compromised. Noise blurs intuition. Familiarity dulls spiritual awareness. So God pulls the chosen aside, not to punish them, not to isolate them out of cruelty, but to prepare them for what cannot be built in distraction. Isolation is where your spirit finally gets room to breathe, heal, and recalibrate. It is where the soul exhales after years of carrying expectations that were never meant to be yours. During this phase, you noticed something strange and confusing. You were alone, yet stronger. Lonely, yet clearer. The constant emotional reactions that once ruled you began to soften. You stopped responding impulsively. You stopped explaining yourself automatically. You started observing instead of reacting. You became aware of patterns you once ignored. Patterns in people, patterns in yourself, patterns in how energy moves before words ever do. This is not coincidence. This is the mind of a leader forming. God does not train leaders in crowds. He trains them in solitude, where truth is not diluted by approval. Isolation is where emotional detox happens. It is where you begin to release the need for validation that once quietly controlled you. You stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop chasing clarity from those who benefit from confusion. You start trusting your inner guidance instead of external approval. At first, this feels uncomfortable because your old self was familiar with noise, familiar with constant interaction, familiar with being needed. But growth requires unfamiliarity. Expansion requires discomfort. Transformation never feels natural at the beginning. Chosen one, many people mistake isolation for rejection. But rejection pushes you away. Isolation pulls you inward. Rejection wounds the ego. Isolation strengthens the spirit. And inward is where God speaks most clearly. This is why your prayers changed during this season. You stopped asking for people to return. You stopped begging for restoration of old connections. You started asking for peace, for clarity, for strength, for wisdom. That shift marked your maturity. That shift signaled that you were no longer operating from emotional dependency, but from spiritual alignment. Let us speak honestly, without spiritual gloss or false comfort. Isolation hurts when you are used to connection. It hurts when your identity was partially built on being present for others, on being included, on being relied upon. In the quiet moments, you questioned whether you were too intense, too deep, too different. You wondered if your authenticity was the reason people drifted away. But the truth is simpler and far less personal. You outgrew the environment that once sustained you, and environments rarely release people gently when they no longer fit. They create discomfort until you either leave willingly or are pushed out by circumstance. God allowed the loneliness because loneliness reveals dependency. In isolation, you discovered who you were without applause, without affirmation, without constant feedback. You discovered what you valued when no one was watching and no one was clapping. You learned to sit with yourself without distraction, to face your thoughts without numbing them, to hear your own voice without it being drowned out by others. These are not small lessons. These are foundations of spiritual authority. A leader who cannot sit alone cannot stand firm when followed. During isolation, God refined your discernment in ways that could not have happened otherwise. You became sensitive to energy rather than appearances. You learned when silence was safer than speech, when restraint was wiser than reaction. You learned that not every thought needs to be shared, and not every truth needs an audience. Wisdom replaced impulsiveness. Depth replaced urgency. You stopped feeling the need to be seen everywhere. You began choosing where your presence truly mattered. Chosen one, this is also the season where emotional wounds surface. Isolation removes distractions, so unresolved pain rises to the surface. Memories return uninvited. Old conversations replay in your mind. Moments you thought you had moved past knock on your awareness again. Regret tries to creep in. Self-doubt attempts to revisit old territory. But this is not regression. This is release. God brings wounds to the surface, not to reopen them, but to finally heal them. Suppressed pain cannot transform you. Processed pain can. What you feel is not weakness. It is integration. Some days during this phase, you felt disconnected from everyone and everything. Other days, you felt deeply connected to something higher, something unshakable, something beyond logic. This fluctuation is normal. You are transitioning from an externally defined identity to an internally grounded one. And that transition is uncomfortable because it dismantles who you thought you were. It strips away labels you outgrew. It forces you to meet yourself without mirrors. Let me say this boldly, without hesitation. Some people cannot survive isolation because they confuse company with purpose. They confuse noise with meaning. They fear being alone because silence forces honesty. But chosen ones are built differently. You are called to lead, not to follow noise. Isolation teaches you to stand firm even when unseen. It teaches you to trust your vision even when unsupported. It strengthens your spine when applause is absent. This is also why old connections tried to resurface during this phase. Nostalgia appeared. Apologies surfaced. Casual messages arrived without depth. Familiar names popped up at unexpected times. This was not coincidence. This was testing. Would you return to familiarity? Or would you honor growth? Would you trade clarity for comfort? And every time you chose silence over explanation, strength over comfort, peace over chaos, you passed another test without realizing it. Chosen one, isolation ends when its purpose is fulfilled. It does not last forever, but it lasts exactly as long as necessary. The moment you stop fearing it, it begins to lose power over you. The moment you stop resisting it, it begins to refine you. What once felt like emptiness begins to feel like space. Space to build, space to hear, space to become. Before we move forward, acknowledge where you are. If you recognize yourself in this phase, write only one number in the comments, 444, as a sign that you understand what God is doing in your life right now, not for validation, but for recognition within yourself. Isolation is where God builds your inner structure. Strong foundations are laid underground, unseen and uncelebrated. So when elevation comes, you do not collapse under pressure. You do not lose yourself in visibility. You do not depend on applause to stay grounded. You are not alone. You were never abandoned. You are being prepared. And preparation for the chosen always happens in silence. Your rise will confuse them, the aftermath of betrayal. Chosen one, there comes a moment after isolation where something shifts quietly but permanently. It does not arrive with noise or announcement. There is no trumpet, no public recognition, no dramatic reveal. It happens internally first. You may wake up one day and feel different without knowing why. Your reactions soften. Your thoughts become clearer. Your spirit feels settled. And even if you do not recognize it immediately, others will. They will feel it in the way you speak, in the way you move, in the way you no longer reach for approval. Your energy changes. Your presence stabilizes. And that stability unsettles those who once doubted you, questioned you, or underestimated you. This is the beginning of your rise. Your rise does not look like what they expected. It does not come with revenge or loud declarations. It is not fueled by bitterness or desperation. It looks calm. It looks grounded. It looks focused. While they anticipated emotional collapse, you developed discipline. While they expected anger, you cultivated wisdom. While they hoped you would shrink, you expanded inwardly. This contrast is deeply unsettling to people who believed their betrayal would be the end of you. They expected your downfall to justify their actions. Instead, your growth exposes their assumptions. Some will watch you from a distance now, quietly, carefully, measuring their stagnation against your progress. They may not speak to you, but they will notice the difference. Others will suddenly remember your value when your absence becomes undeniable. When the space you once filled remains empty. When the support you once offered is no longer available. But understand this clearly. This is not reconciliation. This is realization. And realization comes too late to restore access. Awareness does not equal alignment. Chosen one, do not be surprised when those who hurt you begin to admire you quietly. Admiration after betrayal is often fueled by guilt, curiosity, and disbelief. They wonder how you survived without them. They wonder why you did not collapse under the weight of what they did. They question why your life did not unravel the way they expected. What they do not understand is this: losing them was not a loss. It was a release. The removal of resistance. The clearing of space. Some will attempt to return. This is inevitable. They will approach gently. They will speak kindly. They will reference shared memories as emotional leverage. They may apologize partially, carefully avoiding full accountability. Not always out of malice, but out of discomfort. Out of the need to ease their conscience. Out of curiosity about the version of you they no longer recognize. But hear this without hesitation. Your growth does not require revisiting old wounds. Forgiveness does not mean re-entry. Healing does not demand access. Your rise confuses them because you no longer explain yourself. Silence has replaced justification. Confidence has replaced defense. You move differently now. You speak with intention. You choose words carefully or not at all. You observe before reacting. You listen more than you respond. This maturity cannot be rehearsed or imitated. It is earned through loss. It is forged in isolation. It is refined through pain that taught you discernment. Chosen one of the greatest tests during elevation is restraint. You will feel the urge to clarify narratives, to correct misunderstandings, to defend your name, to finally be seen accurately. But authority does not argue. Truth does not chase validation. Power does not require applause. Those who need explanations are not meant to walk with you forward. And the moment you accept that, you free yourself from emotional labor that drains your spirit. You will notice something else as well. Your success will not require announcement. Doors will open without effort. Opportunities will align without force. People will seek your insight without you advertising it. You will be recognized without campaigning. This is divine elevation. It bypasses permission. It requires no consensus. When God elevates you, no one can block the process. When the timing is right, alignment happens naturally. Some who once discredited you will go silent. Not because they have changed, but because silence becomes their refuge. They cannot reconcile the image they created of you with the reality you have become. Admitting they were wrong would require humility they have not developed. So they retreat. Silence, in this case, is not peace. It is avoidance. Chosen one, this is where emotional maturity matters deeply. Do not celebrate their confusion. Do not internalize their regret. Do not seek satisfaction in being proven right. Remain centered. Remain grounded. Your peace is your greatest protection. The goal was never to rise above others. It was to rise into alignment with yourself. Elevation without ego is true power. Your rise will also sharpen your discernment. You will recognize who approaches you for genuine connection and who approaches you for access. You will feel the difference immediately. One comes with respect, the other comes with expectation. Wisdom will guide your boundaries now. Not fear, not bitterness, but clarity. You no longer build walls, you build gates. Understand this final truth of this phase. Betrayal ends where authority begins. The moment you stop needing approval from those who harmed you, you reclaim your power fully, and that power is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not dominate. It does not seek attention. It is unshakable, rooted, grounded in self-trust. You were never meant to return to the version of yourself that tolerated less than you deserved. Your rise confirms that. The boundaries you now hold are not arrogance. They are wisdom. The distance you maintain is not coldness. It is self-respect. And those who could not walk with you through the valley were never meant to sit with you at the table. Keep moving forward. Let confusion stay behind you. Let silence speak for you. Let your consistency answer every doubt. You do not owe anyone proof. Your life will speak on your behalf. The calling after betrayal, stepping into divine authority. Chosen one, once betrayal has done its work and isolation has refined you, a new phase begins. This phase does not arrive with relief, applause, or immediate peace. It arrives with responsibility. That is why many are unprepared for it. Pain shaped you, yes, but now calling claims you. You can no longer tell yourself that you are simply healing, simply recovering, simply surviving. You are being positioned, and position always carries weight. Position demands awareness. Position requires maturity. Position asks something from you. After betrayal, something irreversible takes place within you. You no longer see the world through innocence alone. That innocence has not disappeared, but it has been integrated with discernment. You now notice patterns before they fully form. You sense shifts in energy before words are spoken. You recognize intentions beneath behavior. This is not cynicism. This is wisdom. Innocence without wisdom leaves you exposed. Wisdom without innocence leaves you hardened. God balanced both within you so you can lead without being naive and love without being weak. This is where divine authority begins to emerge quietly. Authority is not dominance. It is not control. It is not loud confidence or spiritual arrogance. Authority is alignment. It is the ability to stand firmly in truth without needing approval, validation, or consensus. After everything you endured, you no longer bend easily to pressure. You no longer shapeshift to be accepted. You no longer chase belonging in places that require you to abandon yourself. You belong to your calling now, and that belonging is internal. It cannot be granted or revoked by people. Chosen one, authority changes how you speak. You notice it in yourself. You no longer over-explain your intentions. You no longer convince people of your worth. You no longer argue to be understood. You speak when led, not when triggered. And when you do speak, your words carry weight because they come from experience, not theory. You are not repeating lessons you read somewhere. You are speaking from lived truth. People begin to listen differently, not because you demanded attention, but because your presence commands it naturally. Authority does not announce itself. It is recognized. This phase also brings deep responsibility, and this is where many stumble. You are no longer allowed to misuse your pain. You are no longer permitted to weaponize your wounds. Bitterness will poison your calling if you let it linger. God did not refine you so you could become guarded and harsh. He refined you so you could become clear. Clear in vision, clear in intention, clear in discernment. You must now choose compassion without self-sacrifice, empathy without overextension, kindness without compromise. This balance is the mark of true spiritual leadership. Many chosen ones struggle here because pain tempts them toward permanent isolation. After being hurt deeply, the instinct is to close the heart completely, to trust no one, to let distance replace discernment. But authority does not mean emotional exile. Authority means intentional connection, discernment-guided relationship. You will learn to open slowly, carefully, wisely. You will no longer rush intimacy. You will no longer confuse access with alignment. Not everyone deserves entry into your inner world, but some are assigned to walk with you forward, and you will recognize them not by words, but by consistency and character. This is also the phase where your past begins to serve your purpose. The wounds you survived do not disappear. They are transformed. They become wisdom for others, not through preaching or performance, but through presence. People feel safe around you because you understand pain without being consumed by it. You listen without judgment. You speak truth without cruelty. You guide without superiority. This is leadership shaped by humility. Authority that has been forged through suffering carries compassion naturally. Chosen one, your calling will require you to stand firm even when misunderstood again. Elevation does not eliminate misunderstanding. It changes the source of it. People will misinterpret your boundaries as coldness, your silence as pride, your discernment as judgment. This will test you. Not every misunderstanding needs correction. Not every assumption deserves a response. Authority allows misinterpretation without anxiety. You do not lose sleep trying to manage perceptions anymore. You remain aligned, and alignment speaks louder than explanation. This phase will also bring deeper obedience tests. God will ask you to release more than you thought you already had. Old identities that once protected you. Old coping mechanisms that once kept you safe. Old definitions of success that were shaped by survival rather than purpose. You will be asked to trust God not only with your pain, but with your future. This trust is quieter now, less emotional, less dramatic. It is rooted. It does not beg for reassurance. It moves forward even when clarity is partial. Understand this deeply. Betrayal prepared you for authority because authority requires emotional independence. A leader who needs approval will always compromise truth. A chosen one who fears rejection will dilute their calling. You no longer do. That does not make you unloving. It makes you ready. You can now love without attachment, serve without depletion, and lead without fear. This is also where your pace changes. You no longer rush outcomes. You no longer panic when things move slowly. You understand timing now. You trust that what is meant for you will align without force. You move with patience because you have learned that rushing is often rooted in fear. Authority moves deliberately. It listens before it acts. It waits without anxiety. Chosen one, you may notice that fewer people understand you now, and that is not a loss. It is refinement. Depth always narrows the circle, not because you are better, but because you are clearer. Superficial connections fall away naturally when depth becomes your standard, and you no longer mourn this, you accept it. Step into this phase with humility and confidence. You are not ahead of others. You are not above others. You are simply aligned with what you were created for. Walk forward without bitterness, serve without depletion, lead without fear. Your calling is not something you are waiting for, it is already active, and everything you endured prepared you to carry it well. Conclusion. Chosen one, take a moment and let this truth settle in your spirit. Nothing you experienced was wasted, not the betrayal, not the isolation, not the nights you questioned yourself in silence. Every wound carried instruction, every loss carried alignment. What felt like the end was actually the entrance into who you were always meant to become. You were not broken by what happened. You were revealed. The betrayal was not meant to destroy you. It was meant to separate you from what could not follow. God never removes people without reason. He removes them when their presence would interfere with purpose. And now you can see clearly what you once tried to excuse. Your Joseph arc has already begun. You are no longer searching for understanding from those who hurt you. You are no longer chasing closure through explanation. You carry clarity now, and clarity is power. You stand rooted, not reactive, grounded, not bitter, focused, not distracted. Remember this always. God never shows the full plan at the beginning. If he did, you would resist the process. Instead, he walks you through darkness so your faith can grow without conditions, and you endured. That endurance is evidence of your calling. Do not return to old pain looking for familiar comfort. Do not reopen doors God closed to protect you. Honor the strength you gained. Honor the wisdom you earned. You are no longer who you were when the betrayal happened. Walk forward without resentment, lead without apology, trust without fear. What comes next requires the version of you that was forged through loss and refined in silence. You were chosen, you were prepared, and now you are ready.